I promised Christmas cookies and I'm going to deliver. All of these cookies you see here are made from one gluten-free cookie dough. That is right, people. These cookies are so good. They are made from my cutout cookie dough that I've been making for years, gluten-free, of course, and it makes the absolute best cookies. And I decided to ramp it up a little bit and try to make 8 cookies out of one dough. And if you keep watching, I'll show you how it's done. So let's get started. For the master dough, you're going to need sugar, Kim's all-purpose flour blend, butter and cream cheese, vanilla, egg yolks, and salt. Now this is for half the amount of the master dough. I'm using half because my mixer is the smaller variety, so it's only going to do half at once. If you have a very large bowl, you can do this with a handheld mixer. I've done that before too. Or if you have like a really large, like the Pro Series KitchenAid or the Bosch. I know Bosch makes a pretty large one too. Then you can double it and make the entire amount of dough. But I'm just going to do half now, scrape it all out, and do the rest of it. So I don't need to wash the bowl, wash the beater all over again because I'm going to be making the same kind of dough. So I'm adding the sugar to the butter and cream cheese mixture, and we're going to cream this on medium-high or so until light and fluffy. About 2 to 3 minutes. And as always, you will find the link for the recipe in the description box below every one of my videos. It's so easy. Just follow the link and it will take you directly to any recipe I am making. It's just that simple. So scrape down the sides before you add the flour because it's just always a good practice to get into. But first we have to add the egg yolks and the vanilla and the salt. This dough makes the absolute best cutout sugar cookies you have ever had. If you like soft sugar cookies like I do, oh my gosh. Everybody just dies over these cookies. I've made them with buttercream. I've made them with royal frosting or royal icing. I've also just made them plain with some sprinkles. And they are just incredible. And I thought, why not try to make many different varieties out of this one dough because it is such a great dough and it is so similar to a lot of other recipes for other types of cookies I wanted to make. I did not want to. You know how I don't like to do dishes. So I did not want to break out my mixer for, so many different varieties of cookies. And instead, what I did is I made this one dough and then I divided it into 8 different sections. And then I added different things to each of those. You'll see I'll be getting to all of those. But for now, we're adding the flour in a little bit at a time. And as you can see, we're getting like a cloud of flour. And that's just the nature of the beast. And just let this go for 30 seconds to a minute more. That's it. So now we're going to divide it. We're putting 2 of them in plastic wrap and putting those in the fridge to chill for at least 2 hours. So then we have our 6 bowls. So we'll tackle those in a little bit, but first we're going to make the cutout cookies. Now, this is straight from the fridge. It's actually been in there for a longer while than 2 hours, so it's a little firm. You can let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes, or you can do what I did and pound it with your rolling pin. And just now, for the softest cutout cookies, you want to roll it to about, I would say, between like 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 inch thick. That will give you the softest, most tender cookies you have ever had. If you like a crisper cutout sugar cookie, then roll it thinner. Now, these are huge cookies here, as you can see. If you want many more cookies, then you'll need to use smaller cookie cutters. But you can also re-roll the scraps several times. I've done it. You can re-roll it several times. Just don't use too much flour and it'll be fine. So these go in a 350 oven for about 12 to 14 minutes until they're barely brown on the bottom. And here I'm showing you, you can also make the Loft House style cookies. And these are smaller cutout cookies, just to show you all different varieties. And this is just our number one, the cutout cookies. And here I'm just quickly decorating them with buttercream. Super simple. This is also buttercream for those Loft House style with the sprinkles on top. These truly blow any Loft House ones out of the water. Another way, this is royal icing, and I'm making it marbled in a bowl. Super simple to do. Just dip them in there, let them harden. Yum. So on to cookie number 2, which is Mexican chocolate cookies. I'm adding cocoa powder, chopped chocolate. You can also use chocolate chips, a little bit of cayenne pepper, and you can either use cinnamon or right here I'm using instant coffee granules. So we mix this together. You can either do it with your hands or with the mixer. Put it into, shape it into a log form, put it in some parchment, and really get it nice and tight if you possibly can. Here's a little trick I learned from those Korean chefs that you see, the master like chefs, pastry chefs on YouTube, for how they get their rolls so tight. And once you get it tight, roll it up, put it in the fridge for at least 2 hours. And here's a little trick that I've done for years. Use an empty paper towel holder, and it helps keep its shape in the fridge so it doesn't get that one flat bottom to it. So just cut it down the center and then just tape it back up. So now this is nice and chilled. We'll unwrap it. Cut it into about 1/2 inch thick slices. You want some nice thick slices. These are kind of a riff on Dory Greenspan's World Peace Cookies. If you've ever heard of those or seen them or tried them, they are out of this world. They definitely are World Peace Cookies. And these go at 350 also for about 14 minutes or so. I mean, heaven right here. Heaven. Melted chocolate. Yum. Okay, on to cookie number 3. This is going to be our bakery style Italian sugar cookies. And I added milk to the dough. That's all I added. To thin it out, I put it in a pastry bag fitted with an open star tip. And I'm piping little, I don't even know what you call them, little cookies. And once they are baked, I'm spreading them with raspberry jam, sandwiching them together, and then dipping them in melted chocolate. This is semi-sweet chocolate, just one side, and then sprinkling them with pretty little Christmas sprinkles that are gluten-free, of course. Check your sprinkles because not all sprinkles are gluten-free. Okay, now for, I think this is cookie number 4. This is the cinnamon roll cookies. So we make a filling, and it's just like a usual cinnamon roll filling. All that info is in the post. And we roll out the dough into a 9 by 11 inch rectangle. Spread the filling on. The filling consists of butter, brown sugar, a little bit of flour, and some cinnamon. And we're rolling these up just like you would roll up cinnamon rolls, using the parchment to help us. Nice and tight, doing that trick. And the paper towel trick. Put it in the fridge, let it harden for at least 2 hours. These are so impressive to me. And look at that. They look like mini cinnamon rolls, and they actually taste like you're eating a cinnamon roll. So we get these in the oven at 350 as well for 10 minutes. And then we make a little powdered sugar glaze with powdered sugar and milk, drizzle the glaze on. Now we're on to number 5, is it? I think. These are Linzer cookies. And what I'm doing is I'm mixing almond flour and almond extract into the dough. And I'm going to flatten it and chill it for 2 hours. Now I'm going to roll it out, and these are going to be pretty thin. These are like 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick. I have this Linzer cookie cutter here that I got from my local Lidl. I'll leave a link for that in the description box below for where to find it on Amazon. And all you do is press it, and out pops your top one. You can put the stars aside. You can bake those. You can also re-roll the scraps, which is what I do. Then you take out the insert and you just make the bottom portion of your Linzer cookies. And we bake these for about 12 minutes or until they're light golden brown. Sprinkle powdered sugar on the tops. Put the jam on the bottom. I'm using apricot in half and raspberry in the other half. And I'm sandwiching them together. They're to die for, you guys. So I think we're on to number 6 or 7. I can't remember now at this point. Potato chip cookies. These are an old family recipe, very similar to my sugar cookie dough. So I'm adding crushed up, ridged potato chips. In my opinion, the ridged ones are the best, as well as toasted chopped pecans. And then we just roll them into balls about this, like 1 inch, about the size of a large walnut, still in its shell. Roll them into balls, put them on the baking sheet. I'm taking a cookie stamp that I, again, got from my local Lidl. I'm dipping it in flour so it doesn't stick, and then just pressing down. You can also use the bottom of a drinking glass. And then just carefully peel that off, stamp the rest of them, put them in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes or until very light brown around the edges. And that's it with these cookies. They are super simple. On to one of my favorites, cranberry pistachio sticks. I'm adding whole, toasted, and salted pistachios, dried cranberries, and orange zest. And I'm going to mix that and put it into a lined with plastic wrap loaf pan because I want to make sticks out of it. So I'm going to chill it into a thick rectangle. So fold the plastic wrap over, get it nice and tight in there, press down firmly, get it in the fridge for at least 2 hours. Then when it comes out, cut it into about 1/4 inch thick slices. Put them on the baking sheet. And bake those for 10 minutes. Dip half into, or like a corner, into white chocolate. And then sprinkle with sprinkles if desired. Pecan Squares is the next one. This is a riff on Ina Garten's wonderful, wonderful pecan squares. So I'm lining an 8x8 inch baking pan, square baking pan with parchment, and leave a little bit of overhang so I can easily lift these out. Ina makes these in a whole baking sheet, which is a half sheet pan is what they call it. It makes an enormous amount, but I wanted to do just a little bit. That's all I needed. So I'm taking the my cookie dough, pressing it into the bottom, using floured fingers if necessary. And I'm going to pre-bake this at 350 for 15 minutes or until very golden brown. Meanwhile, we'll make the filling. This is honey, butter, brown sugar, and orange and lemon zest. And they're all going in a small saucepan over low heat until the butter melts. And once the butter melts, we're going to crank up the heat to medium high and boil it for 3 minutes. After it's done, add heavy cream to it, as well as coarsely chopped pecans. Stir that together. It is really thick. Pour it into our pre-baked crust and put it back in the oven for another 25 to 30 minutes or until that filling is set. I used to make these years ago before I was gluten-free and put them in Christmas cookie boxes that I would give away, and people would go crazy over these things. And I really wanted to make them again this year, but I wanted to do it on the smaller scale, and I'll show you how I cut these where I still get plenty of them, because just a little bite is really all you need, especially when you have all these other cookies. So these are baked, and we take the whole thing out, fold the sides over, and cut them. And I'm going to cut them into little teeny 1-inch squares. So first I pre-mark them both ways, and then I go back and cut them. And see how many you get out of this? I don't know, you get 25 or so. That's plenty. And they are so good, you guys. So now that I've shown you all of them, I've put them in a pretty little Christmas cookie box, if you will. I still can't get over that I made these all from one cookie dough and all in less than 2 days, really. Normally, my cookie baking takes a couple of weeks every year, and I am just ecstatic. I am looking for ways to make even more cookies out of one cookie dough, but that'll have to come next Christmas. So enjoy.